What I would say is everything comes from source, but it's can be modified through Maya. And so an action can start off pure, but through its modifications, it gets refracted. Like if you put light behind a glass and put a word, you can see the word clearly. But if you fill it up with water, that word will be refracted. And so action itself is pure and comes from source, but depending on the play of Maya and the three gunas, the action is going to be refracted, and it will not be as an end result as it initially was as intended. So that's where the Vedanta offers the three gunas, because if the action comes from mainly the sattva, then the reflection of that action is going to mirror the purity that is coming from source. So the sattvic action is most pure, and then it gets more refracted as it goes from rajas to tamas. So by the time there's a tamasic action, you can't even see the original intention.
Okay.
Oh, wow. So source is, you could say, essentially sattvic?
No, source is trans-sattvic, but you could say this in relation to this particular question, whenever there's an action, there's a manifestation of the creative aspect of source. And we call that Brahma, Lord Brahma. And that action is that creative force that wants to manifest into the material world. And then that will express itself through the three gunas. So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so it's irrespective of whether or not the ego is functioning. I mean, is there any relationship between the presence of rajas and tamas and the ego? Or those would be functioning even when the ego was, let's say, suspended?
Ask that one again.
Oh, let's see. Okay. So you're saying that if the action from source were manifested purely, it would be sattvic. Is that correct?
No. The sattvic action closely resembles the creative energy that is manifested from source, but it is still cannot be the exact manifestation from source, because all actions function through the three gunas, either individually or in the world. And source is transgunas. And that's what we mean by transgunas. You know, Krishna says, I am the creator of the gunas, but the gunas do not influence me, do not affect me.
So let me try to phrase, so if an action were tamasic, so the impulse arising from source or is filtered by tamas, and the action is tamasic. Does that mean there's more or less ego, or does it have nothing to do with ego?
I think what I'm talking about is the quality of ego, and when we have the quality of ego as exemplified by the three gunas, and I think you're talking more about the quantity. Is there more ego involved in a tamasic action than there is in a sattvic action?
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
So I wouldn't really know how to quantify ego. But so I would stick with a qualitative approach rather than a quantitative approach. I would stick with the qualitative approach that the more tamas, the more the original creative intention, impulse gets refracted. And so if you want to say there's more refraction, you can say there's more refraction. And so you could say that refraction is the ego. And you could say there's less refraction and less distortion in sattva.
And then it's still the ego in sattva?
Mm-hmm. In fact, in the Upanishads, it says, don't get even attached to sattva. Which can be a tricky thing. You get attached to sattva.
Well, you've said that. I've heard you say that before, and I notice that I do get very attached to sattva.
How so?
Well, I think this is correct to say this is an attachment to sattva, just feeling peaceful, not having my peace disrupted. Oh God, I saw that thing on the TV, and it got me out of my peace.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing.
Right. Yes. Yes, that's a good example of being attached to sattva.
Yeah, and then so I could try to just completely construct my life to avoid anything.
Yeah.
That disrupts peace.
Right.
It would be very restricted.
Yes. Yes. And the gunas exist within us. So if there's going to be restlessness, the rajasic guna, and there's going to be a tamasic guna, it's still going to exist independent of the external world.
Mm. Hmm. Huh.
So someone who is good at being able to detach, who has developed a strong sense of detachment, they can say, okay, well, the world is going well right now, and then a week later it doesn't go well, and they can be fairly balanced in that. And then they can even be more adept at looking within and saying, oh, there's rajas right now, there's restlessness, and they can be detached from that, and even tamasic guna.
And is that detachment a result of knowledge, of seeing?
Yes.
It's not because of there's some forcing or some separation, or it's
Right. It's from a. It can be through experience too, like the school of hard knocks, and some people will reach some kind of bottom where they're forced to inquire, where do they really want to put their happiness. and then it takes an honest assessment of that. Need to honestly say that whatever has happened in the world has not given me lasting happiness. No matter what has happened or what has ever been achieved, has not given me lasting happiness. And there has to be a withdrawal of pursuing that carrot that's always within reach. And when there's an honest acceptance of that, the way the world is set up, the nature of the world is set up that it's always going to be a carrot in front of the individual. And the individual is never going to catch up to it. I mean, you could say that it catches up for a minute, eats the carrot, but then a new carrot is grown, and then it starts the whole process again, where it's always just within the grasp. And so when that's clearly seen, and it's through experience, it can be the school of hard knocks. It's like, I keep looking in the outside world for lasting happiness. And then there's an honest assessment of that material world. And you say, and then there becomes wisdom sets in, and then you see the nature of the world. Just as you would see the nature of a scorpion stings when it's in danger. The nature of the world has its ups and downs. And you know, a person can say, yeah, I get that, but yet still pursue it. And so the wisdom just hasn't dawned yet.